Hey kids, it's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. We have a Dean Thoroughbred Select on the bench today. We're doing some major surgery. Let's get you caught up on what we're doing. If I can get my camera to cooperate. Okay, so I've already gutted the guitar. This guitar is pretty neat. It's clearly a Les Paul shaped object, but a really well built little guitar. I don't know what exactly the price point is on it, but it had Seymour Duncans in it. It comes from the factory with them. What we're doing is taking these Seymour Duncans out, and we're putting in Sentient Neck and Screamin' Demon in the bridge. We are also taking all of the cheap Chinese offshore little tiny micro pots that were in there. They're cheap. I guess that's to get to the price point on the guitar, which I think was pretty reasonable. They cheaped out on electronics. Now, I don't know what exactly these pickups are that are coming out of there, but apparently that's what it comes with. But we're upgrading to some pretty neat Seymour Duncan stuff. Taking Seymour out and putting Seymour in. So what I'm going to do, now I've already gutted the guitar, like I said. I took the pickups out. I already kind of got the cavity prepped. It had, like I said, micro, let's see if I can pull one out of here, little tiny alpha pots. Yeah, no. Customer wanted to upgrade the pickups, and he wants to put 500K good pots in it. I use CTS. These are 2450s, I think. Yep. Long shaft. Typical what I would put into a Les Paul, and I've done quite a few of those recently. In fact, it's been the order of the day to either convert or rewire Les Paul guitars lately. Make sure you use good pots. They should look like that on the back, and they should have really good clasps on the top side where the sweep is. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time talking about, pots, but only use good pots. We're taking crappy ones out and we're putting really good ones in. Where we might run into a little bit of trouble is because those were small mini pots. In fact, they're even smaller than what I would consider a mini pot. And I noticed right away, as soon as I opened up that, when I looked at this is not the same dimension as, say, what a Les Paul would be. So it's even a little bit tighter in there. But I digress. What we're going to do is we're going to move forward. And first thing we're going to do is I'm going to pause, bring the camera down close, and we're going to start tinning our pots, and I'm going tinning our pickup leads, and I'm going to show you what we do with that. And I'm also going to prep the pots as much as I can before I mount them in the body to save trying to dig down in there with a hot solder iron. I'm going to show you what I do. Stand by. I'm just going to reposition the camera so that you can see a little bit better what we're doing. Stand by. So I do get quite a few requests from time to time. Show us what you're doing when you're soldering. Well, that's hard to do. I've got us right down close. Now, there may be some focus issues from, moving around here, but I'm going to show you the best that I can. I have my solder station all ready to go, and it's nice and hot. We tin first the tip of the solder iron. Now, green and ground go together, red and white go together, black is our hot lead, but you have to prep these by tinning them first. What does tinning mean? You have to put some solder on them. And all it takes is a little bit. You just heat it up and the solder will be drawn right into the wire. Now, there's too much lead on there, but I'm going to snip them off to what I need. The ground, I usually try to leave a little bit extra blob on it because that's got to go to the back of a pot and it makes it easier. The other leads, well, we'll talk about that in a moment. Go where they go. Every once in a while, clean excess solder off of your solder tip and start fresh. So all you're doing is putting a little blob of solder on the end of the tip. You touch that to the point that you want to tin, and then the solder will actually pull into the wire. Contrary to popular belief, or contrary to novices, they think the solder iron is actually doing the soldering. It's the hot molten solder that you tin the end of your solder iron tip with that actually does the soldering. You don't put the hot solder iron and start globbing solder onto it. That's not how it works. So, as I said, you've got red and white, green and bare. Those are our grounds. Now, if we were going to have switching or splitting humbuckers in this, the red and the white would come into play, but in this application, you just solder them together and we tape them back. The black lead in this application is actually our hot lead, or your lead that's going to go to the volume. That's your hot ground split. Split in this case we're not going to use. So once you get them soldered, because we are not going to use the red and white, what I do is put a little bit of heat shrink. You don't want them touching anything else for certain. What I do is put a little bit of heat shrink on the end of it. Make sure we're in the vid here. It only takes a little bit. All right. We got a little too much lead on that one. We don't need it. So all we're going to do, a bit of fire, take your heat shrink, red and white lead, get covered. It would help if I could see. A little bit of fire, we'll shrink that, and it basically covers the end of that lead, and we're going to tape it back. Same thing on the other one. Right? And then I tape it back. We're not going to use it. We're going to tape it back. Oh, you're not going to agree with me? Yeah. My heat shrink popped off. And just a little piece of tape to hold it back. And no, don't put black electrical tape anywhere in your control cavity. Blue tape. That's what I recommend. That's it. That lead is ready to go now. That's our ground. That's our hot lead. Same thing with the other one. Just tape it back out of the way. Now, these are ready to go in. I've already mounted them in the rings, right? I can go over there. While we're still in this position, I'm going to show you one of the pots. Now, on a ground with the back of the pot, it is, let me make sure what I'm doing here. Yeah, I still refer to directions. Now, this pot is going to sit in the cavity in this orientation. This is going to be our volume pot. We're going to take that lug right there and bend it back to where it, as close as you can get it to touching the cap, the bowl, right? And then scratch the surface a little bit to make for a better joint. And just kind of push it as close as you can. That little tiny gap right there is going to get caught up by solder. Now, we're also going to need other ground points on this pot. So I'm going to go right here, scratch a little bit, and I'm going to go right over here and scratch a little bit. So if you were looking at it like it was the face of a clock, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and of course we're going to ground that lead because this is going to be our volume pot, right? All pots start life the same. It's what you do with them that makes them either a tone pot or a volume pot. So I'm going to show you. We're going to use these other two lugs, so I'm going to preload them with solder. And I'm going to make this ground connection here very quickly and easily. Tin the end of your tip, your solder iron just a bit, and put a little glob of solder right there on the back of the pot, and it will pull up. If you just kind of push the solder up, it just made that ground connection. Same kind of thing over here. I'm going to preload the back of the pot for grounds that I know are going to go here. All right, and you don't need a whole bunch, just enough to make a little puddle there. One there, and one there. Now, to preload the lugs, same thing. You just kind of quickly heat the lug, push the solder into the hole, and it will fill that hole and get ready to accept whatever lead is going to attach to it. And just like that, that pot is ready to be now installed into the body of the guitar and get ready to be wired. Ultimately, there will be a bridge ground will go here. There will be a ground from the pickup, because you have to put a hot lead and then ground put the ground for the pickup there. And probably in this case, the three-way switch comes with a lead and a ground in it. So, well, that actually goes somewhere else, but yeah. All right, that's one pot ready to go. I'm going to pause while I prep the rest of the pots because it takes a hot minute to do it. Hot minute, you see what I said? A hot minute, hot solder iron. Stand by. So very quickly, I wanted to show this is going to be one of our tone pots, and you can see that I already have an orange drop on there to 0.022. We're going to do. I'm going to show you how I do the next one. Just like we showed you before, you put a little dollop of solder there, a little puddle there. We loaded these two lugs. This lug will not be used, and I bend it down slightly out of the way. Now, what you do is you take you kind of measure and get close to where you want it to be in orientation on your pot. All right. So I kind of snipped this end off. They come with, you know, really long ends on them. You got to cut off what you don't need. Same thing. You're going to want to tin it a little bit, but don't have to get too concerned about that. The first thing I'm going to do is kind of run the short end through the lug. Am I still in there? Yeah. Get a little bit of solder on the end of your cap. Heat it, push it through, and just let the solder do its thing. It will make the joint, right? I hope that caught on video. It's tricky. It's small, meticulous work. Now, we have a good joint there on that lug. Just a gentle tug will tell you you're home. What I want to do is get the other part of the cap, the other end of the cap on that puddle that we put on the back of the pot, right? So you kind of bend it over until it's just touching, right? Tin your solder tip. And try not to hoof that stuff. And now your molten solder on your tip and the puddle that you put there are going to kind of come together and create your joint. Just like that. Just like that. And if all goes to plan, you just have a little bit to snip off right there. Yahtzee. So both of our tone pots are now done. Oh, be careful. They're hot. Both of our tone pots are done. They're ready to be installed. And we pre-loaded our lugs on the tone pots and the volume pots. Stand by. I'm going to reposition the camera and we're going to start putting these in the guitar, actually mounting them back in the body where we're going to do the rest of the work. So hold on. All right, so this is going to go pretty quick. Off camera, as you can see, we've gotten everything loaded in there. We've done most of the wiring. Yeah, I don't show all of that because it's almost impossible to do. We mounted the pickups and we're getting ready to solder in the bridge pickup. This is the ground lead to the back of the pot. If it cooperates, which it is. Well, sort of cooperating. There we go. All right, you're really not going to cooperate, are you? And a gentle tug will give us a yay or nay. Yeah. And then the last thing we have to do is get our hot lead for the bridge. And yeah, it's down to literally down to the wire, no pun intended. And doing this kind of work, the more you get installed, the more stuff gets in the way. it's always a challenge because you only have so much room in the cavity to work with. And in this particular instance, the way the body route is, the pots are actually recessed so far down in, say in comparison to a Les Paul, where they're up higher and you have a little bit more wiggle room. The entire cavity is actually smaller. And I think that's probably why they, and the manufacturer, Dean, decided to offshore. They were putting, cheap electronics, not only to save money, but it was easier to install. It took me a hot minute to get all of this put in there and have it be a clean job, which it has to be. You don't want wires, kind of sticking up everywhere. So anyway, I digress. The last little thing we're going to do before we try to do a tap test is put our output jack back together. And that was, I wasn't going to originally take this apart, but because I didn't need to, but to get that one extra wire out of the way, I did. I got it. I desoldered it and got it out of the way. So this will be the last thing we do together today on this video, is put the output jack in and tap test it. Restring and setup will come at another time, but I kind of wanted to show as much as I could with what we were doing today. So let's get our ground on there first. Ground goes to the sleeve. Sometimes it's tricky. I'm doing it with the plate on, and that's what's making it kind of awkward. There we go. If I can get the ground in, the other one will go pretty quick. And same as always, tin your tip. And send her home. I don't like that. That's a little better. I know my fat head is probably in the way, but you get a little punchy after you've been doing this for like 3 hours. Tiny, teeny, tiny wires. Yeah. It's the life of a guitar tech. Key is to have your work held, firmly so that you can get your wire close to where it wants to be. Of course, it never wants to just go through. Yeah. Wow. Success. Let's see. We'll find out here in a New York minute. We will find out quickly. Back in. Let's see if I can find my little screws. Actually, it looks like one of them. Where are you? I wonder how much stuff I just dumped out of that. All right, come on. There's one more. I got to get a different thing to hold all my... I'm using that ashtray because it's from a place where I grew up in upstate New York, and I happened to find it totally by accident on, I think, eBay one day. It's actually from a gas station in Auburn, New York, which I grew up in Ithaca, and we're opposite ends of a large lake called Cayuga Lake. be a nice novelty. I bought it for $1.67 or some stupid ass thing, and I've been using it I use it to put parts when I'm taking guitars apart. And it doesn't work well, but I keep using it because it has nostalgic value. Again, I digress. All right, are we going to get sound out of this guitar after completely rewiring it? I hope so. I hope so. We'll find out here in a New York minute. All right, we're in the neck position. Tone. Yup. Bridge. Tone. Yup. Middle. And one volume should shut them both off. It's a success. It's always a moment of truth when you have a guitar completely gutted and take all of the electronics out. Yeah. What is it called? Sentient Neck from Seymour Duncan and Screamin' Demon Humbucker. Not only that, we took a bunch of tiny alpha mini pots out of here, and it didn't even say whether they were 500K or 250K, but we put good CTS 500K pots in with 022 caps, orange drops. Got it all wired up. We had to do a little modification to the body to accept the larger pots. That was just making the holes a little bit bigger. Knobs. You know, I don't only have a couple of knobs. I have ordered some new ones for it. But that's that. We are done. It's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. I hope you dig what I'm doing. It's been a hot minute since I filmed the video. So I thought this one would be a good candidate to get in there and get our hands dirty. If you dig what I'm doing, like and subscribe. I love all your comments and your shares and your likes. We'll talk soon.